Now, just 10 days ago was Father's Day on a Sunday, and I didn't have a devotional for it at the time, but I have been happily surprised to see in Facebook and in the newspaper and on television so many tributes to fathers, fathers who are still with us and fathers who are no longer with us. And since fathers are worth celebrating 365 days a year, I've decided to devote this devotional to my father by way of saying all fathers. My father died tragically of a massive heart attack. He was 55 years old. We didn't see it coming. We didn't have a chance to say goodbye. And oh, in the ensuing years, that was 54 years ago, there are so many questions that I wish I could have asked him. Some of which I could have asked him, but I was wrapped up in my own life. My dad was a passionate fisherman. Now, he was a workaholic as well, but when he wasn't working, he was an electrical engineer. He loved to fish. And when we were up at Stony Lake at the cottage, he would get up at the crack of dawn, and I could hear him. And I'd watch as he'd leave the front porch. The screen door would slam shut. He'd walk down the steps, down the grass, down to the lake and on the dock, and then he'd put his fishing pole and his tackle box into the little rowboat, and he would row out to the middle of the lake, not quite the middle of the lake, and then take a hard left. And sometimes I followed, I watched, but when he turned the bend, I couldn't see him anymore. And a couple of hours, well, probably it was only more like an hour, he'd come back and he would have a big smile on his face and he would say, "What's for breakfast?" Well, by then my mother knew. She knew that she had to get the electric frying pan started and butter sizzling, and Daddy would clean and fillet the little bluegills. Mother would fry them up, and then we would be called to breakfast. The breakfasts were pretty good. Orange juice, fresh Michigan blueberries, and fresh Michigan peaches, and maybe oatmeal or pancakes or toast, and these little bluegills, which I hated. They were small and tasteless, with lots of little bones that were just always getting caught in my mouth. So very often I would take my piece of toast and I'd retreat to the other porch and read a book. I know if I'd asked my dad, "Daddy, can I come fishing with you?" he would have said yes, but he probably also would have said, "Yes, Beth, but you'd probably better bring a book along in case your impatience gets the better of you, because fish don't always bite on command." But then I could have asked him questions about what it was like for him to grow up in a small town. He was the favorite boy in town. He was quarterback and lead in the senior play and had his own jazz band, and then went off to Michigan State and then to New York. And along the way, he married my mother. He had my brother and me, and he moved us all around the country. He was kind of a complicated man, but I was so involved in my own life that I never really asked him much about his. And now, of course, he's gone. So if your father is still with you, call him. Go and see him. If you can. I know with the pandemic, this is a horrible situation. But fathers are sometimes reluctant to accept affection or even attention. So sometimes we have to work hard to let our fathers know how much they mean to us, how much we love them. But you know something? Do it. Because one day your father will be gone, and it's dreadful to be left with so many unanswered questions, the questions that I still have, that will never be answered. So here's to fathers with us and no longer with us around the world, 365 days worth of fathers. Amen.